Hey everyone, it's the Invincible Movie Man back once again with another video. So I finished watching WonderMan yesterday and wanted to leave my thoughts. I quite enjoyed the trailer. I wasn't sure where they were going to go with the show. But this show is quite different to the recent Marvel fare. Maybe kind of like She-Hulk, they tried to go a slightly different direction. But it is not your typical loads of superhero fights and actions every episode type of show. And for that reason, and the subject matter, I absolutely loved it. This is an homage to the film and TV industry. This show really does have so many cool bits, little touches of wording and references to the film and TV industry, which I love. And being a huge movie and TV guy, I absolutely loved all of the references they threw in there, the quotes, the scenes, the subject matter, even the trivia, which was brilliant. So, that premise alone, I found was very watchable for me, at least. Seeing the process of how sets work, how auditions work, how callbacks work, how directors work. I think a lot of folks who are into movies know this stuff already. Maybe not everyone does, but it was good to see it portrayed on the screen in this sort of fictional environment. And what I also liked about WonderMan, which I think is the show's greatest strength, is the dynamic between Simon Williams and Trevor. It is such a good sort of buddy pairing that every time they're together on the screen, I just want to watch them. Now, of course, Ben Kingsley is a legendary actor, someone that can hold his own against anyone. And Abdul-Mateen does a pretty good job, I think, in all the scenes. I mean, sometimes I did find his voice a little bit soft. I couldn't really understand sometimes what he's saying. But, for the most part, he did really well. And what I liked about him is he really managed to portray that sort of nervous, tortured soul that they were going for with the Simon Williams incarnation they've done. So there are spoilers ahead. I'll get into that now. Please go watch the show if you haven't. Come back to watch this video afterwards. But in the show, Simon Williams, who's working in Hollywood trying to be an actor, struggling actor, doesn't want anyone to know his secret, and almost nobody does know his secret, so he works very, very hard to protect his secret. And how does he do that? By pretending to be somebody else. Where is the profession where you can pretend to be somebody else every day? Well, clearly it's acting. And that's what I thought was so brilliant about it. He has to be an actor almost, because he's not just good at acting and emoting, but he has to act so that people don't find out, his secret. And there's an amazing scene, which I think I started off watching it thinking this is going to be unbelievably good, but then it got a little bit heavy-handed in terms of the exposition afterwards. But there's a scene where he's auditioning for the director, and the director wants him to be himself, wants to get underneath, and he can't do that, because if he really is himself, then people will find out his secret. So he can't be himself, although the role calls for him to be himself. So that was really meta. They did speak about it in the conversation afterwards. They kind of, I think it was obvious for anyone watching. I didn't think they needed the conversation, but I guess it kind of helped get Simon into the space where he gets the role. But, in order to get the role, he has to pretend to be himself because the role is himself. And he struggles with being himself, but he has to pretend to be himself because the role is himself. The role is WonderMan. And he is WonderMan. We get hints of his powers throughout. There's no explanation as to why he's got them. Could be a Roxxon thing. They put Roxxon in there for the Doorman episode, which I thought was pretty extraneous and not needed. But maybe we'll find out about his powers in another time. His powers seem pretty Omega level, to be honest. I think, especially when they talked about the ionic energy part at the end, where they analyzed the explosion. In the comics, he's an Omega level guy, and I was never a big WonderMan fan of the comics. I knew about him. I knew he was like a Hollywood actor, and he wore these shades, and he was pretty cool. But I didn't know too much about the history of him. And in the comics, his brother is a villain called the Grim Reaper, I think. But I don't think they went that way in the show. And it was great seeing the sort of family life, seeing Simon Williams and how he has his demons, seeing Trevor with all of the baggage that Trevor brings. And I got to say, I said it earlier on, Ben Kingsley is an absolute genius. He just makes Trevor Slattery so watchable. I mean, the script really helps. It's a really well-written script, and Trevor as a character is really fleshed out. And this is 8 episodes of us getting to know the characters without too much of the normal superhero fare, which I really liked. And and seeing what makes them tick, how Trevor reacts in certain situations and the lines that he comes up with. It was wonderful to see, and Ben Kingsley did an amazing job. The rest of the supporting cast are okay, I guess. You mainly have Von Kovac and his agent, who are pretty funny, sort of characters, interesting characters. As I said before, I love all the movie references. I love the fact that Simon can quote films and Trevor can quote Shakespeare, and Simon does a scene from Pretty Woman, and they go to see Midnight Cowboy, and they even give some of the trivia about Dustin Hoffman, who people thought was too clean-shaven to play the role, and how he actually changed. I was waiting on the corner and the director didn't notice him. That's all true stuff, which was really cool. Another cool thing is that obviously Hollywood exists in the Marvel Universe, so they name-dropped a lot of people. And if you name-drop somebody, does that mean they can't play a superhero going forwards? Joe Pantoliano cannot be a superhero now in the Marvel Universe because he is himself in the Marvel Universe. So that was pretty cool. And actually, speaking of that, I forgot. When Simon is talking to Trevor about all of Trevor's old film history, that's Ben Kingsley's film history. Go look it up. Everything he says about what Trevor did and everything Trevor says he did is something he actually did in real life. So the way that they incorporated all that stuff was very meta, very cool. I really enjoyed it. So that was wonderful to see. And the love and the homage for film and TV. I mean, I have that, as you know, miserable movie man. But I wasn't that miserable when I was growing up as a kid. I'm a bit more miserable lately in coming into old age and grumpy old man that I am. But showing, the cool stuff that happened, the way that movies move people, the way that Simon gets moved by WonderMan. I was literally thinking this morning that I had the same feeling when I saw Back to the Future 2 in the cinema, or Ghostbusters, or Batman, or something like it. Those experiences are so magical. They cannot be recreated. They stay with you forever. They leave such a huge, huge sense of nostalgia. And only good movies, I think, can do that. Only a good cinema experience. I mean, streaming is not the same. So I chastise Nolan on this channel, but I do stand with him in wanting to bring people back to the big screen, him and Tom Cruise. So that was pretty cool. And the ending, right? The ending is nice. Simon embraces his powers, breaks Trevor out of prison, and we see the full extent of how powerful he can be. You kind of knew it was coming. I mean, when Trevor revealed himself that he'd betrayed Simon, which obviously mirrored the plot of the film they were shooting, which was also very cool. When they did that, it was kind of obvious that Trevor would probably give himself up as a Mandarin, and the way he kind of went back in the role was really cool. And then it was a nice sort of touching end, the way that Simon broke him out. So overall, I really enjoyed WonderMan. I thought it was a great new addition to the Marvel Universe. I want to see more of Trevor and Simon together. I want to see more of what WonderMan is doing. I want to see more of his powers. Can he, still be a super and be in Hollywood? I mean, he was in the comics, so it'll be interesting to see how they go with that type of stuff. So let's see. Obviously, Josh Gad can't be anyone in the Marvel Universe now. He's disappeared. And actually, that episode with the doorman, I wanted to get onto that. I felt that was fairly unnecessary. You could have told that story in much shorter flashbacks and focused on how Trevor and Simon are working together. I guess I had to put the episode in because they referenced it so much, and it would show why Simon is so worried. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the episode. It was fun to see the rise and fall of the doorman, Ding Dong. But I think they went a bit OTT with it. I think they could have, as I said, done it in quick flashbacks or a short story or something, and had more time to spend on Simon, maybe how he got his powers, or just showing Simon and Trevor together, as I said. So other than that episode, even though the build-up was slow, even though there was not loads of fighting and superheroics going on, I really enjoyed the character study. I enjoy seeing these two together, and I want to see more. I would probably give this 7.5 out of 10, maybe 7.5, closer to 8. I really enjoyed the writing, and as I said, enjoyed all the touches around referencing Hollywood and TV and movies. So I want to see more. But there you go. There you have it. That is my review of WonderMan. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know it's divided quite a few folks who wanted some more standard fare. But it was a good show. And as usual, please like, share, and subscribe to help support the channel. And catch you next time.